Radio Mechanic here, and today we're going to try to talk about the MFJ 212 Matchmaker and how to quickly tune your antenna tuner or adjust your antenna tuner, and how to quickly tune up your amplifier. And that's if I can get through this without having a heart attack, because every time I start thinking about all the morons out there who can't tune their amplifiers in a couple of seconds. It shouldn't take you more than 2 or 3 seconds. And they continuously tune up on top of the DX station that everyone's trying to work. They obviously don't own a dummy load, or they're too fucking stupid to use it. And then they go out and they buy one of these not this, but they go out and buy one of those MFJ, I think they're ATP 100 transmitter pulsers, so that they can tune their amplifier for 15 minutes without blowing it up. I think the FCC ought to ban those things, because when they're using one of those pulsers, your notch filter can't keep up with it. And here I go, I've got heartburn. Wooza, 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 wooza. Okay. We started this out to talk about the MFJ 212 Matchmaker for your antenna tuner. Nice little piece of equipment. It works well. It's very simple to operate. It's got 2 connections, well 3 in the back if you count the 12 volts. It will run on a 9-volt internal battery. I suggest just using the 12 volts, and you don't have to worry about batteries. The side that says transmitter, short cable goes to your transmitter to here, and the cable that was plugged into your transmitter, whether it's from your antenna directly, your antenna tuner, or your amplifier, would go here. So into here, like it would go into the transmitter, and then this goes to the transmitter in its place. Very simple to hook up, very simple in operation, and we'll show you how to do it. And by the way, I've been using one of these in one form or another for a long time. This is my homemade unit. Again, the same 2 connections on the back, the on-off switch on the front, and these 2 knobs were to simply trim the thing so that it exactly matched a 50 ohm load. They are no longer functional. I've added trim capacitors and trim pots on the inside of this thing. This thing works perfectly. The only problem is you can see the size difference. It takes up a lot more room. And so I bought the MFJ unit. Now the problem with this MFJ unit is MFJ has now taken the direction of a lot of manufacturers. They're no longer including schematics. Now I don't know if they're doing that so they think that nobody can copy it. If that's their reasoning, they're dead wrong. Somebody's going to reverse engineer this and make clones of it in China. For Christ's sakes, let the rest of us who like to work on our gear have a schematic for it. There's no trimming inside of this one, so it doesn't work quite as well as my homemade one does. It does, however, take up less space. And this is one I picked up at the flea market to do some experimenting on. I'm going to tear it apart and make some changes. My actual one in the shack is right here. And you can see the little red LED blinking off and on. We'll get to that in just a second. The main thing to worry about here is when you turn this thing on and you're using it, don't forget to turn it off before you transmit, because you will damage the thing. It does have a circuit inside with a little relay that's supposed to sense the RF and automatically switch it out of the circuit. They're typically too slow, and you'll get away with transmitting into these 2 or 3 times, but something's going to die. My intention at some point is to try to figure out where on the back panel I can put a jack and let my transmit control from the back of the transceiver, the one that operates the linear amplifier. I should be able to add a jack somewhere back here. The trouble is the SO239s internally fill most of the area, and the 12 volt connector fills this area. So I haven't figured out how I'm going to add a jack to this thing yet. But anyway, let's get on to how this thing operates and show you how it works. Alright, here we have my antenna switch. Next to it is the equipment switch. I can switch in different various radios to the system. Over here is my antenna selection. We have the beam antenna at the top. That covers everything from 10 through 20 meters, 10, 12, 15, 17, and 20. But when I want to operate on 40, 80, or 160 or 30 meters, I come down here and use my dipole. Now my dipole is cut for 160 meters. I'm very lucky I have enough land out back that I can run a full-size 160 meter dipole. I feed it with ladder line, and it's usable on all of the bands, and I use a balanced line tuner, and one of these days I'll cover what I did to that thing to make it fully functional. I don't have any stock in MFJ. I don't work for MFJ. In fact, MFJ pisses me off quite often. They could be the premier supplier in this country if they got their act together. But they tend to use unskilled labor, I think, to build their equipment, and they have no quality control. Their electrical design or electronic design is very good. It usually is well engineered. It's just the implementation. They don't have people building them who know what they're doing. I'll get off my horse here. We'll move on. Anyway, let's say we're going to operate on 7.125. Now I have a cheat sheet built up here, and I have all my tuner settings over every 20 kilohertz. So 7.125, I would set my transmitter control at 100, the inductance at, or excuse me, I'll set my my transmitter at 0, my inductance at 112.5, and the antenna at 0.75. So I go up here, set this on 0, set this on 112.5, and set this on 0.75, right about there. Now I know I'm close. Next, we go down here and we're going to turn on our Matchmaker. And you can see it's pulsing. Now I'm going to turn up the volume on the radio, and you can hear that pulsating sound. You want to turn down your RF gain so the AGC is partially disabled. Then we go back up to our tuner and start tuning and looking for a null. Oh, and I'm on the wrong antenna. What a dumbass. All right. And you hear the sound went down considerably. Now my volume is all the way up. And we have all but lost now my AGC is too high. And there you have it. There we go. Okay, as seen earlier, we have our antenna tuned. The antenna tuner is tuned, which means it's going to present a 50 ohm load. Now we need to tune the amplifier. We don't want to do that on the air. We don't want to be one of those inconsiderate morons who tunes up for 15 minutes. It shouldn't take you more than 2 or 3 seconds to tune your amplifier. Why anybody would buy one of those MFJ pulsers and sit on the air for 15 minutes absolutely wiping out band conditions is beyond me. They're just inconsiderate assholes as far as I'm concerned. There's no excuse for it. I have my dummy load on now so that I won't transmit on the air, and we're on 40 meters, 70/125. There's a blue dot here. Set that on the blue dot, 40 meters. Set my plate on the blue dot. Set my load on the blue dot. These were all predetermined in the dummy load a long time ago. These are available at any stationary store. They are extremely easy to flake off if you don't want them on there to sell the amplifier. They do nothing to harm the resale value because they are removable. They leave no residue. I pre-tuned. Now I'm going to key down and do my final tuning into my dummy load. I'm tuned. what was that? 3 seconds, 4 seconds perhaps? I'm done. I'm putting out over a kilowatt. My plate current is well within, I've got 1100 max, I'm at 400 milliamperes. I'm putting out over 1,000 watts. I'm tuned. There's no need to go any further than that. Now I can turn to my antenna and transmit. And I've bothered nobody. So that's how the MFJ 212 functions. We can run through that again for 80 Once again, meters. Here's my chart. 80 meters, let's go to 3.600. That'd be 673 1.5. Okay, and as before, I went to my presets, and now I'm looking for a null, or as much of a null as I can get. And you can usually find a spot where it disappears, but the conditions are changing rapidly out here today. But let's see how that looks. I am just briefly, move the camera over here, and we'll zoom in on the SWR meter. And it doesn't look like it's, there it is. Now it's in focus. And I am going to go down to the 100 watt level without the amplifier, just to prove to you the VisWire is good. And we'll switch over here to and as you can see, there, perfect. Flat VSWR. We are on the money. No need to go on the air with tuning and tuning and tuning and tuning. Find the null with the 212 and you're virtually done. Now let's do the same thing on the amplifier. Okay, and here we are back at the amplifier. We were on 40 meters. Now we're on 80 meters. Our antenna is going to present a 50 ohm load. I've switched in the dummy load, which is a 50 ohm load. We want the green dot this time, so we go here, from blue to green, from blue to green, and we should be ready to go on 80 meters. I'll key down and do some fine tuning. Just that quick, my amplifier's tuned. No need for some stupid pulse box. No need to be on the air for 5 or 10 or 15 minutes tuning, completely destroying anyone else's chance of getting that DX. Maybe that's their plan. Maybe they can't get the DX and they figure they'll drive everyone else away. I don't know what the reason is. They're inconsiderate morons. Use a dummy load, have your presets set, you're done. It's that simple, folks. See you again next time. This is the Radio Mechanic.